Tonight, the dark day for Maine, a deadly mass shooting and a manhunt that forced tens of thousands of people to shelter in place. The fear after a gunman opens fire.
Nerves are rattled right now.
New details about the suspect and the scramble to safety.
I shut off all the blinds and just put my back against the wall.
Israel carries out a raid on the ground in Gaza.
I wake up many times during the night. I have so many nightmares now.
As a Canadian doctor stranded in the war zone puts his skills to work. Plus, an NHL player suspended for gambling.
That would suggest that what he did was incredibly serious.
The latest pro athlete facing penalties over betting policies.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. More than 24 hours after a deadly rampage in Lewiston, Maine, just a few hours from the Canadian border, a massive manhunt continues for the prime suspect, a 40-year-old Army reservist who law enforcement say spent time at a mental health facility this summer. Late tonight, police descended on a home not knowing if the alleged killer was actually inside. They've been searching for him ever since 18 people were shot and killed last night at a bar and bowling alley where some hid behind bowling pins. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin is in Lewiston tonight. Jen.
Omar, here in Lewiston today, there was both a manhunt and a search for answers. More than 350 police officers are scouring Maine, searching for the killer on the loose. And tonight, several converged at his home. But the last trace of the suspect, 40-year-old Robert Card, is his car, abandoned 15 minutes from Lewiston, a weapon found inside. More than a day has passed since the nightmare began in this small town. It was around 7 p.m. when a gunman entered a bowling alley, spare time recreation, killing 7 people, among them a father and his 14-year-old son out on a bowling night. Bob Laviolette, a longtime bowling instructor, and Tricia Aslan, out with her sister trying to call 911 when she was shot. And then somehow the gunman fled, heading to a local bar and grill to continue his killing spree. The restaurant's manager, Joey Walker, died here, says his father, a hero.
He picked up a butcher knife from somewhere, he has all that stuff near the bar anyways, and he tried to go at the gunman to stop him from shooting anybody else. The gunman shot him twice.
It's very heartbreaking.
Lori Ford lives meters from the bar and grill. She once worked there, knew at least 3 of the victims.
Scary to know that it was this close to my house, and I was almost kind of worried that the person might be in my backyard.
Card is an Army reservist, and his training fear officers could help him evade authorities in the heavily wooded areas near the crime scene.
We believe this is someone that should not be approached. This is someone that should be if you come into any contact with this individual or someone that you think looks like this individual, you were to call 911.
Stores and schools are closed. Shelter-in-place orders issued in many communities. Canadian student David He says he's been in his dorm for more than a day now.
When I went to school here in Maine, I never thought it could happen to our community.
The Quebec and New Brunswick borders are just hours away, triggering an armed and dangerous alert at all land crossings.
We have been engaged with our border services agencies and with appropriate police forces to ensure extra protections for Canadians.
The number of people killed in just one night is almost as many as are normally killed in a year in Maine. And in a stunning news conference moment, Congressman Jared Golden, who'd voted against firearms bans, announced an about-face.
Which is why I now call on the United States Congress to ban assault rifles like the one used by the sick perpetrator of this mass killing in my hometown of Lewiston, Maine.
Grieving as long as the manhunt lasts is difficult, and finding answers perhaps even harder.
I never thought I'd grow up and get a bullet in my leg. Why? Why do people do this?
Much of Lewiston was eerily quiet tonight as this small town struggles with the deadliest mass shooting in the U.S. so far this year. Omar.
All right, Genevieve, thank you. This shooting has once again jolted America. So far, there have been more than 560 mass shootings, defined as an incident in which 4 people or more are killed or injured. And with more than 2 months to go in the year, that's just shy of the annual average of 600. The U.S. also has more guns than people, more than 120 per 100 residents, compared to Canada's nearly 35. To the crisis in the Middle East now, where Global Affairs confirmed a 7th Canadian was killed in the hostilities. And today, Israel conducted what it called a targeted raid in Gaza. Military video shows armored bulldozers and columns of tanks firing in what Israel says was a move to prepare the battlefield for the next phase of the war. Today, Israeli families pleading for the release of hostages. Simona Steinbrecher was on the phone with her daughter just before she was taken.
She was screaming and afraid and crying, "Mommy, Mommy, they came to take us. Help me, Mommy," but I can't go to help her because all the place was with Hamas.
In Montreal today, hundreds attended the funeral this afternoon for 33-year-old Alexander Look, who was killed by Hamas militants in the October 7th attack.
Great soul, a great person.
In Gaza, Al Jazeera bureau chief Wael Dadou was surrounded by mourners as he buried multiple members of his family after what the network reported was an Israeli airstrike. His wife, son, daughter, and grandson gone. Gaza is the epicenter of what aid groups are calling a humanitarian catastrophe, and where doctors are forced to operate without anesthesia. CTV's Adrian Gabriel has the story of a Canadian doctor risking his own life to save others.
This is the neonatal ward in Gaza's Al-Shifa Hospital, where precious lives hang in a precarious balance. 20 days of Israeli airstrikes have decimated homes, buildings, and neighborhoods. Of the 2.2 million people living in the Gaza Strip, the United Nations estimates more than 1.4 million of them have been displaced since this war began. Many are seeking shelter in hospitals. Trapped in Gaza, Canadian doctor Ihab Badir has been tending to the wounded.
He's very kind, very generous. He loves people. He adores kids.
A Canadian-trained neonatologist, Badir is spending most of his days here in the NICU, caring for premature babies, risking his life to give those whose lives have barely begun a fighting chance. It's a sacrifice not lost on his closest friends.
He has decided that he is going to make the dangerous trek to the hospital there every day.
Badir is one of more than 2 million people unable to leave Gaza. He traveled there in late September to tend to his ailing parents.
I wake up many times during the night. I have so many nightmares now.
For Badir's wife, Rana, this war has already stolen the lives of other loved ones.
Your parents' house was bombed.
Yeah.
Your brother was inside.
My brother was inside. And he was killed. Same story happened 2014 with my sister.
With limited electricity in Gaza, reaching her husband is a daily challenge, though a family friend did receive this voice note this week from Badir.
Like, we don't feel safe at all. At any time, at any moment, anywhere. You could be targeted.
It's just calming to hear his voice, that he is alive.
Are you concerned you could lose your friend in this war?
Absolutely. He has decided that if he is able to support and help save a life in the hospital, that is what he must do.
According to Dr. Badir, they've began to ration electricity in Al-Shifa Hospital. In order to keep the ventilators in the ICU and the NICU units operating, they've cut the power supply in other wards. A desperate situation growing more dire by the hour. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. And you can watch Adrian's full report, Courage in the Carnage, on W5 in its new time slot tomorrow at 10 p.m. Here at home, the Trudeau government revealed changes today to the federal carbon tax it says will help rural Canadians. It's a move that could bolster Liberal poll numbers in Atlantic Canada, but there are also concerns it could weaken a central plank of the government's climate policy. Here's CTV's Judy Trin.
Let me first
Flanked by Liberal MPs from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, and Labrador, the Prime Minister announced that their rural constituents will get a 3-year break from paying the carbon tax on home heating oil.
The price signal on heating oil is not resulting in enough people being able to switch to electric heat pumps, despite people wanting to move to these cleaner home heating options.
30% of Atlantic Canadians live in rural areas, relying on furnace oil. The tax pause will save them an average of $250. People with low to median incomes will also get $250 to switch to electric heat. Joint federal and provincial grants will essentially cover the cost of their new pumps. This could also save Liberal seats.
They could lose upwards of 13 seats in Atlantic Canada, which is usually bedrock support. So this is about the Liberals trying to salvage the political situation, knowing that Canadians are grumpy.
The Conservatives have repeatedly pushed the Axe the Tax message in Atlantic Canada. Just hours before Trudeau announced the tax pause, Pierre Poilievre in Halifax slammed the policy again.
Axe the carbon tax. The Liberals want to quadruple the tax, all the way up to 61 cents a litre. That's going to force people out of their homes.
Environmental groups worry this exemption will lead to more walkbacks of Canada's climate strategy.
Once you offer one exemption, there's going to be pressure for more, and I think there's potential that undermines carbon pricing.
The NDP point out that this announcement only helps the Liberals' political interests to help more Canadians. The NDP is calling for the removal of the GST on all home heating fuel to help struggling families across the country. Omar.
All right, Judy, thanks. An iconic singer spoke out today about an upcoming media report said to question her own Indigenous identity. Buffy St Marie is an artist and activist who has inspired people for decades and calls the allegations deeply hurtful. Here's CTV's Creason Ajkute.
Buffy St Marie is speaking out publicly for the first time after days of questions surrounding her ancestry.
I'm an artist, an activist, a mom, a survivor, and a proud member of the Native community with deep roots in Canada.
On Friday, the CBC's Fifth Estate will air a report that will examine the 82-year-old's Indigenous identity, speaking to family members who question her Indigenous background.
These questions hurt me. They still do, but they also hurt others. They're questions I've struggled with my whole life. Sometimes you got to take a stand.
St. Marie says she was born in Piapot First Nation in Saskatchewan, taken from her parents during Canada's 60s scoop when she was just an infant. She was later adopted by a Massachusetts family, was told she was Indigenous, and may have been born out of wedlock with no documentation.
I don't know where I'm from, who my birth parents are, or how I ended up a misfit in a typical white Christian New England town.
In the 1960s, St. Marie returned to Piapot First Nation and was adopted in Cree tradition by the Piapot family. The family says the identity questions are inappropriate and painful.
It's colonial, it's insulting, it's hurtful, and it's quite frankly racist.
There were tears and there was anger.
In a statement to CTV News, a CBC spokesperson said, "Respectfully, we don't comment on stories that have yet to air." The Piapot family says they are patiently waiting to see what the segment will reveal, but Natanis says she will stand by her auntie Buffy.
We are a sovereign nation, we are a sovereign people, and nobody gets to tell us who we can adopt.
In August, St. Marie announced she was retiring from live performances, suffering from arthritis in her hands and a recent shoulder injury that made it no longer possible for her to perform to her standards. Omar.
All right, Creason, thank you. Manitoba's new Premier Wab Kinew met with the families today of 2 slain First Nations women whose remains are believed to be in a Winnipeg area landfill.
I wanted to formally apologize to your families on behalf of the government of Manitoba for what you have gone through these past few months.
Calling it a first step in resetting the relationship, Kinew spent more than an hour behind closed doors with the families and other First Nations representatives. Those at the table said they were grateful for the gathering.
And I'm happy that he did apologize, because it's been a long year and a half, And to hear that from one of the premiers is absolutely amazing.
The families say they are hopeful the landfill search will eventually go ahead. The devastating impact of Hurricane Otis became much clearer today. At least 27 people were killed in the most powerful storm ever to slam Mexico's Pacific coast. The hurricane came ashore Wednesday as a Category 5, pounding the popular resort city of Acapulco. Some fear the damage could be close to $15 billion. Coming up, an NHL player off the ice over gambling.
If you think about how athletes are wired, we are competitive by nature.
Raising questions over what's become serious business for Major League sports. Plus, striking a chord with compassion for a special school. The NHL has suspended an Ottawa Senators player for violating its sports betting policy. 22-year-old Shane Pinto will miss 41 games, half the season. Here's CTV's Kevin Gallagher.
Shane Pinto hasn't played a game yet this season over a contract dispute, but now he won't suit up for the Ottawa Senators until late January at the earliest because he violated the NHL's gambling policy. In a statement, Pinto apologized, saying, "I take full responsibility for my actions and look forward to getting back on the ice with my team." The Ottawa Senators added Pinto made poor decisions, and the team plans to provide the support to allow him to address his issues and become a strong contributor to our community. It's not clear how the 22-year-old center broke the league's sports betting policy, but the NHL says its investigation found no evidence that Pinto made any wagers on NHL games and considers the matter closed.
That's a very high number to be suspended for, 41 games. So that would suggest that what he did was incredibly serious.
Sports gambling has also become serious business for the NHL since it became legal in parts of the U.S. and Canada. The league has partnerships with gaming sites.
Drain that three!
Star players are in commercials. The Ottawa Senators and other teams have sports betting sponsors on their helmets.
Back in my era, we didn't actually talk about gambling. It was a no-no.
Former player Aaron Ward is also a recovering gambling addict. He says the league is sending mixed messages.
In light of the fact that you're going to introduce this element into the game on a more acceptable level, you also have to be hyper aware of the effect it'll have on players.
The NHL and other pro leagues have tough gambling penalties to ensure fans trust the outcome of games.
CJ Moore!
This year, the NFL suspended 10 players for violating its betting policy.
Pinto is not appealing the suspension as he becomes the first NHL player punished for gambling since the 1940s. Kevin Gallagher, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, sliding into history, celebrating a trailblazer for Canadian women in sport. We're getting a first peek tonight at the newest Heritage Minute, honoring a pioneer of women in sports. Regina's Mary Bonnie Baker was a professional baseball player, set to be the inspiration for Gina Davis's character in the 90s blockbuster A League of Their Own. But as CTV's Allison Bamford reports, Baker's legacy runs much deeper than just Hollywood fodder.
Are you an entertainer, Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Do people come to watch you perform?
Yes. Are you a professional baseball player? Yes, I am.
Mary Bonnie Baker was a two-time All-Star catcher in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. She's the most recent Canadian to be featured in Historica Canada's Heritage Minute.
It didn't really dawn on me that she was that special. Over the years, of course, it was made very clear.
Maureen Baker remembers her late mom as a trailblazer for women in sport, playing professionally from 1943 to 1952. Baker grew up in Regina and is one of 64 Canadians to play in the Women's League.
Bonnie Baker
was a perfect image for the league.
A former model and outstanding catcher, according to historian Mary Fiddler. Baker appeared on a 1945 cover of Time magazine, and in 1950 she became the first female player to manage a team.
She had a manager's contract. There were other women who stepped in and finished out a season helping to manage a team, but she was the first one hired.
After hanging up her cleats professionally, Baker took on a new challenge, becoming Canada's first female radio sportscaster, and was inducted into the Regina, Saskatchewan, and Canadian Sports Halls of Fame.
She was meticulous in most of things she did. She was a perfectionist.
Baker died in 2003. Memorials remain in Regina's Central Park, steps away from where she used to practice. But behind all those accolades and firsts was just a mother who loved to play ball. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
After the break.
The shadows reach to the bar.
A benefit like no other in support of a one-of-a-kind school. Canadian singer-songwriter Hayden is the driving force behind a concert aimed at helping a community and a school unlike any other. The 9th annual Dream Serenade took place over the weekend, a project that is deeply personal for the musician and his family. It's a star-studded event at Toronto's legendary Massey Hall, a benefit concert for a unique school and the families it serves.
It is the greatest school you are ever going to step foot into, and you're never going to want to leave.
Toronto's Beverly School caters to students with exceptionalities, those with developmental disabilities, students like 14-year-old Gray.
Gray, how's it going? I love your hair.
Gray was born with a rare chromosomal condition.
There was a lot of worrying about her survival and if she was going to be okay.
Not only has she survived, she's thrived during her years at Beverly.
She shines there. She loves her friends. She loves the teachers. She does the snack program.
As a way to give back to the school, Gray's dad, singer-songwriter Hayden, came up with the idea of an annual benefit concert called the Dream Serenade to help the school and its families.
The shadows reach to the bar.
Over the years, the show has featured some big names: Gord Downie, Serena Ryder, and the Bare Naked Ladies, just to name a few, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You're attracting the biggest and the best artists from across this country. To see it become what it is now, how does it make you feel?
Yeah, well, it makes me feel amazing.
A feeling shared by an adoring audience.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone. Till next time.
Those kids are amazing, and you can meet them and meet the stars behind the Dream Serenade in our profile airing on W5 tomorrow at 10 p.m. on CTV. That's a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather Butts will be here tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, good night.